Don't leave, it's my fault. Don't leave, it's my fault. Don't leave, it's my fault. 'Cause when it all comes crashing down, I'll need you. Alright. I think this is one of the situations that I can say I got stream cucked, which is funny, but it happens. As you can see, I am gloriously ill-prepared. I am picking my hair on camera. Very glorious. Very glorious. And I do not even have my second screen set up where I can see chat, so as a matter of fact, I cannot find. No, there it is. It is in a bag somewhere. Hold up. Fuck. There it is. Okay. Fuck, I hate that. Let me share something with y'all. I don't know, like a couple viewers I have. I have this thing that I do, and I've done it for years. After I eat, like, I can't just, like, like, clear my throat of fucking mucus. Like, I have to cough. So, like, of course, before in, like, 2018, 2017, like, it was normal. I'll just cough, no one would, like, pay attention to me. Whenever I do that nowadays, it's like that. It's like that stare, They're just like, and I'm just like, I'm fine. I don't have the Rona. You're good. You're good. But yeah, that's how it is. Anyways, this should be interesting, an interesting discussion. Got very fucking heated on Twitter. I still have my earbud in. Jesus. World's most prepared fucking political streamer. Okay, reconnection successful. What the fuck happened? Did stream crash? Is that what happened? Did stream crash? For a sec there? Fuck. Fuck me. My streamerino. Not my streamerino. Okay, come on. I used to, when I first started streaming, I literally streamed off this. This is what I streamed off of. And I have like a little tab on it because basically the way my setup works is my desk is like right next to my dresser. On my wall, like where I have my TV above. So what I'll do is I have like a little strip on my dresser that matches this. And like if I'm doing like homework, you got some insane stream delay? Yeah, my OBS like fucking crashed on me, so yeah. But what was I gonna say? ADHD vibes. Oh, yeah, so like occasionally whenever I'm doing like work or when I was typing up the video script, what I would do is that I would just take this and I would paste it above like my main laptop, and I would just have what do you call it? I'll just have like a movie going on it on like Disney Plus. Happened to me last time I streamed. Yeah, it happens. Okay, got my earbuds. This should hopefully be It should hopefully be a fun discussion, though. I'm looking forward to that. Ooh, can you see my wallpaper or my glasses? It's the owl house. Do 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 do. Okay, just gotta find myself on Twitter. Not Twitter, on YouTube. Jesus. My internet is slow. Okay, Opera GX, thank you. Thank you very much. That's exactly what I asked you to do. Okay, we have 3 people watching right now. That's how it be. That's how it be. But when are you getting those voice lines? You'll get those voice lines soon enough. You will get them. It is legitimately just like a matter of me getting this last part recorded, which if tonight ends before like 10 o'clock, I'll probably do it then. But again, it's like it's entirely just like when I get this last part recorded, and then that will be sometime this week, guaranteed. And then I'll send them out so that I can. Excuse me? Is that Dylan Burns? Wait, no shot. No fucking shot. Welcome to the stream, if it is you, Dylan Burns. I don't know how you know my channel, but yes, welcome. Go to channel, yes please. Let's do that. Oh god, it is. Okay. Wow. Okay. Hi. Dylan, I have never interacted with you, but I listen, if I'm being honest, I have to attribute my being a small lefty YouTuber to you, because it was your nuking of Xanderhall from Hippy Dippy that caused me to make the first meme I ever did in that community, and somehow I ended up here, so thank you for that. Hippy Dippy's based, also. And that was a very funny moment. that was a very shocking and a very, like, funny moment. Let me DM this person, make sure that they're still on to talk, because last time I was supposed to debate someone, as it turns out, they were not on to talk, which was awkward. Dylan had many correct opinions, still does. Anytime I need to hear a foreign policy take, I go with Dylan, because he knows significantly more. Where's my phone? Do I have to? Okay. I gotta log in manually on my Discord. That's fun. You see, I take the glasses off. I take the glasses off so that no one can see my shit, and yep, today was the perfect day to enable 2-factor authentication. Good job, Pillow. Okay. Here it is. I am managing this well, methinks. What did Zan do this time? I don't know. Ends justify the means, that is very true. It was slightly I don't know how to put it. It was one of those moments where it's like I think I was like, "Oh god, the only way I can like respond to this in a way that makes sense to me is like to make a meme about it." So then I made a meme about it and then I somehow ended up here. Uh Okay, 2 minutes. 2 minutes. We're supposed to start at 8:15 Eastern Standard Time, which is the best time zone. Of course, just beautiful time zone. Yes, okay. Okay. And then the glasses that I do not need to see, but I wear because I think they look cool, are back on. Pilla argued with you on Twitter, but you probably don't recognize me. If your name on YouTube is not the same as your name on Twitter, then I will not recognize you. No. But really, I hope the one thing that we can all come out of this with is the ultimate knowledge and the ultimate belief that Twitter.com fucking sucks. Alright. Alright. Let's go. I got butterflies. Hold on, let me see if I can. Alright. Love my hair, holy shit, thank you. That's what I get a lot from like customers at Food Line, especially where I work. Okay. Hi. Yep, I can hear you. Okay, let me cut on my desktop audio. Can you speak real quick?
Hello, it is me.
Okay.
I am talking.
You are lighting up green. So, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. I'm very well. I'm on the eve of vacation. I have a Truly in my hand. I'm feeling great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty fine, thank you. I'm doing pretty fine. Eve of vacation. I remember you saying that you will be going to a city of very much so very not pious things, which is pretty based.
Yes, very, very base, my brother in Christ.
Indeed. You will have to repent after that trip. But I think it's easy to go ahead and start out and introduce yourself. Who are you? Name, pronouns.
For sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
For sure. So online, I go mostly by Golden Goat, and in person, I go by Joe. My pronouns are he, him, and they, them.
All right. Based. And if you want to like plug anything, like, I mean, I doubt that I could make much leeway for you, but if you want to plug anything, your Twitter, your if you have a YouTube, your YouTube, etc.
Okay.
If you want to plug that,
I
go ahead and say it out, and I'll put it in the stream description after stream.
Okay, so I'm spelling it out in the chat right now. My Twitter handle, real quick, just because it's easier to do that than to spell it out. It's what's it called? My YouTube name is the same as mine on Twitter, which is Golden Goat.
All right. It's always good to secure YouTube and Twitter name. Is that Minecraft in the background?
Oh, what do you mean?
I just heard like a Minecraft villager like, like.
Oh, that might have been my chair.
That is a fun chair noise. Okay.
Let's see. Okay. So you had some interesting takes on Will Smith slapping the shit out of Chris Rock.
I definitely would say that. I will say, going into this, you definitely have the position that is far easier to defend. But
I would
I'm
agree.
gonna try my best to
Okay.
defend mine to the best of my ability. So, you're the guest. You state your position, please.
Okay. Will Smith had no right to resort to physical violence when handling his emotions over defending his wife. Given the circumstances, I understand why he would be upset. I would also. However, I would not march up there and assault someone for saying that. First, I wouldn't have the chance to. My wife would be the first one yelling at him. Second, I've learned through my own experience with anger issues that violence is not the answer. What's it called? Let's see. I would like to agree with Will Smith himself in his apology when he posted on Instagram yesterday. Violence in all of its forms is poisonous and destructive.
All right, all right. Still trying to figure these earbuds out. I barely use them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, only use them for YouTube. Try to figure out what's comfortable. But I suppose I'll go ahead and state my opinion after a quick little
Yeah, go
drink
ahead.
of tea. Sweet tea because I'm not British.
Thank goodness.
Indeed. I'm significantly worse. I'm from the fucking South, so
Oh, ooh.
yeah, yeah.
Lefty in the South. That sounds fun.
Oh yeah, it fucking sucks. But okay. My general position on this is that while I do hold the belief that most instances of physical violence are unwarranted, I do also hold the belief that sometimes physical violence can. Okay, let me reword this.
Go ahead.
Okay. Try to get the words to come to me. It's like I literally took a shower before this. I was going through my head how I'm gonna say this, and then it's just so. Okay,
Yeah.
I believe that the use of physical violence should be weighed against other forms of violence that are being committed. So, um, going by basically violence, to me at least, is any action taken that hinders someone's personal freedoms, and part of that personal freedom, to me, is the right to not be unrightfully, not to be unjustly defamed, not defamed in the legal definition way, but defamed in the more social way.
Mm-hmm.
um Part of that. And in my humble opinion, I feel like what Chris Rock was doing, even though it wasn't physical violence, I felt like what Chris Rock was doing was normalizing a far more sinister form of violence than what Will Smith did. What Chris Rock was doing, in my opinion, was normalizing bigotry, both against people with hair conditions or, medical conditions that they can't control, which at the time Chris Rock didn't know about that. That's understandable. But I
Mm-hmm.
also feel like Chris Rock was also normalizing and continuing to normalize a stigma against black women and their hair, which is a pretty big issue that isn't talked about enough and is an issue that Chris Rock knows about because he was in a documentary about black women and their hair that's free on YouTube. It's an hour 40 minutes and
Yeah,
I,
I'm
I
aware of it.
yeah. So
Yeah. It's
that's
called Good Hair, right?
yeah, good hair. That's
Gotcha.
basically my position. Like while what Will Smith did was definitely violent, I believe
Mm-hmm.
that what Chris Rock was doing was far more violent, and I feel like what Will Smith did in response to that was also, I should have also mentioned this, I feel like it was also really the only response he could have taken that would have actually started a conversation about what Chris Rock said
Mm-hmm.
and not just turned it into, oh, well, Will Smith did a bad job at defending his wife. Basically, I get Will Smith like apologized about it, but I
Mm-hmm.
want to focus on this, and I'm just telling you this so that we're both like understanding where each other are coming from, and it's not like you're just talking about Will Smith and I'm only talking about, like, I want to operate on like slightly the same plane.
Yeah. So you're talking about like the more broad issue, not just this one
Yeah, basically.
moment. Is that what you're trying to say? Okay.
Basically.
Okay. Yeah. I took the same approach in crafting some of my own arguments. So yeah, I think we'll be on the same page.
All right. So
Okay. So do you want me to go ahead and rebut?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So yeah. So when you're saying that like violence is justified in fighting bigotry, I think that overall that statement is not a terrible statement. I think that we're talking about different levels of bigotry, and I think that that was a part of our kind of talking past each other in our definitions on the Twitter. Because Twitter's the greatest mode of communication.
Yeah.
We were kind of talking past each other and stuff with regards to like what we consider bigotry. Because like typically when I think about bigotry, and I think of like basically things like systemic racism and the words and justifications that people use to like support those kinds of institutions, right?
Yeah.
And it's just the easiest one for me to track to, right? And so I think of those kind of things. And so when I'm talking about bigotry, I have to keep in mind there's also bigoted language. Like, do you agree, for example, that the word like cracker is a slur?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it does have significantly less power than the N word.
Yeah.
And the reason why is the power differential, correct?
Yeah.
So, okay, good. So we're all on the same page on that. So when it comes down to it, as far as I'm aware, there is no systematic process for keeping down people who suffer from alopecia. You know what I mean? And so for me, the bigotry that he exerted, if it was possible that he was exerting any kind of bigotry, the bigotry on display in that moment was of such like a minor amount that it doesn't justify the violent reaction. It justifies a reaction that tears down people's presumptions about people with that. You know what I mean? So if because I do disagree also with like that was Will Smith's only option, that he could have also went up there and instead of resorting to violence, and this applies to any situation like this, he could have spoken out against that and why that was deeply upsetting to him and his family. You know what I mean? And like he could have taken a part of his acceptance speech to be like, hey, I want to call attention to this. You know, Chris Rock said something that was very offensive because my wife suffers from alopecia, blah, 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 blah. And took that time to inform, right? And I think that would have been a big moment regardless. That would have been something that a lot of people would have heard about. Instead, now we're focused on the slap. So I think that it goes from turning Chris Rock into like the victim in the situation to turning the Smith family into the victims.
Yeah.
Right? Which is ideally your goal, right?
Yeah. I mean, that is certainly fair. I do want to speak on my reasoning for why violence, or at least why I feel violence in this instance, was far more justified than other things, which I'm not saying that you said this. I argued with a lot of fucking people on Twitter.
Yeah.
Like, it was under like some publication. I managed to like get under someone's comment and like within like less than a minute of a publication like publishing something about it. So I got under someone's comment and then I commented something, and then I had just fucking thousands of like Gen Xers yelling at me. Like yelling at each other. I had to mute the shit. I got in countless arguments, so I'm not saying that you said this. And if you like don't believe this, like feel free to interrupt me and say, okay, this isn't what I believe, because I don't want to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I did definitely see like a lot of people saying like one thing that Will Smith could have done is like call him out from the audience, or one thing that like Will Smith did is like when he walked up, instead of smacking the shit out of him, he could have like went like back and forth with him, or he could have, you know, said like, hey, that was fucked up, this is why you don't do it. The reason why I don't believe that would have been effective is because Chris Rock is a stand-up comedian. Of course, he's been a stand-up comedian for decades now. He is a master of his craft, I will definitely say that. Master of his craft. And one thing that stand-up comedians have to know how to do is, of course, handle hecklers.
Hmm.
Um, and Chris Rock would have handled Will Smith like he would have handled a heckler. Um,
I don't think so.
I mean, as a matter of fact, if you look at like the video, when Will Smith was walking up, Chris Rock was about to go into like handling a heckler mode. He was like, "Oh, I see what's going like." Yeah, and then he got
Yeah.
smacked, and then he was shocked. But it was immediately like the handling a heckler mode, and I feel like if Chris Rock would have had the opportunity to handle Will Smith like he would have handled a heckler, the conversation might further be turned against Will and Jada Smith from, oh, like, from what it is now to, okay, that was fucked up, but also what Chris Rock did was also pretty fucked up and making fun of Jada Smith's alopecia. Well, not directly, but making fun of Jada Smith's hair.
Hmm.
Um, Instead of it being what it would have been if he had been treated like a heckler, which is, oh, Will Smith can't defend his wife, which is what it has been for the past few fucking years with them,
Yeah.
because the whole entanglement shit, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And I've seen a lot of the entanglement jokes and stuff along those lines, and I think that stuff's kind of like it's fucked up,
Yeah.
and everything, because that's something that the Smiths need to handle in the Smiths house, and that's it. But okay, so what I do think is that if he were to have yelled, say for example, he doesn't go up and hit Chris Rock, he goes back to sit down, or he stays sitting, and he says what he said after he sat down: "Keep my wife's fucking name out of your mouth," right?
Yeah.
Like, if he went and yelled that a few times, well, Chris is over here going like, "Oh shit," you know what I mean? I think that it would have got the point across that this is not a joking matter for whatever reason. And I think that also Will Smith holds enough cachet that would have, like, social cachet within Hollywood, that they would have been like, "Oh shit, I might have stepped on somebody's toes." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
personally, I think that might have been how it would have gone. Who knows? We're all fanficking right now, but I think
Yeah.
that the best way to have handled it was to basically, in the acceptance speech, or in, at a later time, talk to some press people or something, and be like, and then just kind of like lay it out and go like, "Well, I'm really pissed off about this," put it on Instagram, put it on all his media channels, to let them, like, to inform and to let them know, because now the meme is, Will Smith smacked the crap out of a comedian. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and that's the wrong meme, right? That's the wrong, um that's not the optics that you want from something like this. And so, like, and so another big broader topic about this that I think is interesting is the discourse about, what's it called, at what point, because you did kind of bring this into the realm of bigotry and violence, and
Yeah.
I think that that's an interesting conversation. um at what Let's see. So at what point is it okay to commit violence in response to bigotry? Like, what's your line?
My line is, hmm, that is definitely an interesting question to ask, because that was a question I was planning on asking you.
Oh,
Uh,
fun.
my line is that it is very much so when it comes to the question of like when violence is warranted. It is very nebulous in finding that. I would say that it generally comes down to when the individual being assailed upon feels like violence is really the only way to get that across. Which is part of the reason why, again, I'm saying that I am fine with Will Smith smacking the shit out of Chris Rock, because in my opinion, there was really no other way to resolve that realistically that wouldn't have had far more negative consequence on Will and Jada than if Will hadn't gone up there, asserted himself, basically threw a smack, communicated, "Hey, keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth," sat back down, and stated that out loud. I feel
Okay.
like it was, um, and I'm about to finish. I'm sorry
Yeah,
for
no
talking
problem.
long.
No,
Um,
that's fine.
yeah. I was just gonna say, uh, I feel like it was at the point where I can understand Will feeling like violence was the only way in the moment. He said, coming out of the moment, coming out of the heat, he doesn't feel that anymore, which is understandable. Um, but I definitely understand how he felt so assailed upon that he felt like that was really the only option in the moment, which is why I'm fine with that.
Okay, so your justification, so you basically said that your justification for violence is any time that the person committing the violence feels like that's the only option.
Yeah, in the
I think that's
moment.
an incredibly low bar. I think, I think that that's an insanely low bar. Okay, because when it comes down to it, it's not. And then it's like, what level of violence, right? So like if somebody what's it called, like I'm trying to think of okay, somebody cuts me off in traffic and I'm like, okay, well I got to stop this guy, right? Like all of a sudden I feel compelled, oh, he did that because I am me or whatever, right? I
Yeah,
have like, maybe I have like some, something else going on in my life or whatever, and in this moment I'm feeling attacked by the world, and somebody cuts us off and it goes like, oh, why me? I feel like a lot of us have had that situation, those of us who drive.
yeah.
And and I'm like, I have to commit violence on this guy. Like, is it acceptable for me in that moment to run him off the road?
Well, yeah, I think I should have also said like within the bounds of like realism, because
Well,
I will say like in a situation where it is like someone cuts you off on the road and then you feel like they're personally attacking you, in that moment, it's again within the bounds of realism. That could be like just a shitty driver being an asshole, or it could be someone like personally attacking you. But 9 times out of
but
10, I would attribute again like I believe it's Hanlon's razor. Like don't attribute to malice what could be attributed to just like ignorance. I feel like in a situation with Will Smith and Chris Rock, Hanlon's razor was a bit less sharp, I suppose you could say, because Jada Smith has been open and vocal about her having alopecia, and
mm,
Chris Rock just so happened to be out of the loop. But especially with the circles that they both operate around, it's not, that hard to say, okay, Will Smith probably thought that Chris Rock knew, especially since Chris Rock is making a joke about it. That's not just. There are plenty of bald women, but he chose specifically to focus on Jada
well,
Smith.
it's
So,
also the situation where if you're at a comedy event, then you're sitting in the front row, you're going to get made fun of. Like I got made fun of at a comedy show. Like
yeah,
it happens. Like you sit in the front row, you kind of expect, right? You're like, I'm going to drink a little bit more so that I'm perfectly fine with this.
yeah,
Kind of situation. But my problem, I guess, comes down to the individual perception, right? Because like, do you agree that it's in the moment it is incredibly hard to remain objective about a situation?
it
Or
can be certainly hard to remain objective, but again, it's
okay,
also like viewing it from the outside looking in, like what could have been going through that person's head at the moment, and does that check out with reality? And then after that, were their actions like then justified from that, from what they were likely feeling? Which, of course, you can never know 100% what someone was feeling, but Will Smith, from his actions, because we have seen plenty of celebrities that are willing to like throw fucking chairs at buses like Conor McGregor. Will
oh
Smith
yeah.
is not the kind of guy to just snap like that.
Well,
He's
that's the thing, is
yeah,
that this is the first time he snapped in public.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like how many times has he snapped at his kids? How many times has he snapped at his wife? How many times has he snapped at friends, family? You know what I mean? Like because like my family has a history of domestic violence,
mm-hmm.
and from what I know is that a lot of people, back when my dad was having a really hard time with his anger issues,
Mask
a
it.
lot of people thought my dad was fine.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And like was like a great guy, always funny, always smiling. I didn't think of him that way when I was a kid. So
yeah,
like to me, this is kind of um like when you see a volcano explode, right? It's not, this isn't, it didn't just start rumbling the minute you saw the lava. You
yeah.
know what I mean? It's been rumbling for a minute. And I think that some of it is the August situation, the entanglement. Some of it is him being emasculated online, and some of that stuff. But what I would say is that his reaction was a textbook example of macho toxic masculinity bullshit.
Yeah.
And I think that like in any situation that needs to be condemned, because what he's doing is he's showing an example to his son. He's showing an example to all the kids who look up to him, and a lot of the people who thought that he was a wholesome guy. Like a
Yeah.
lot of people, he had no like bad boy energy or any of that stuff going on at all and stuff. And so, no matter how much he kind of, he even said that he kind of, what's it called, wanted to be Tupac, sometimes, and he
Yeah.
couldn't. And, um, but he never had that energy about him. And so this is like a shocking moment. And for so many people, including like Tiffany Haddish and a few other people I saw online, straight up defending him and saying like, "Oh no, this is it's so beautiful to see somebody stand up for their woman and all this stuff." And I'm like, this is toxic. This is toxic as fuck.
Yeah.
Like there is no like, and so my issue with your statement about feeling attacked in the moment, I feel like that is a very, very bad barometer to be teaching people that this is how you should react, right? Is that I'm feeling attacked in the moment, so I'm going to physically attack someone else, because that is an escalation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like somebody using words, regardless of what words they use, your physical punch is an escalation, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then the people who are now being attacked for saying something that they may not have known, like Chris Rock's situation, right? May not have known was something that was deeply hurtful to the other person. Him now being punched, does he have a right to retaliate?
Yeah.
Because in his way, this is an incredible escalation, right? From something that didn't require this, right? So if we lived in a world that you're kind of like framing here with that moral system, we would have people starting fights on the street over any perceived slight, right? Because there's so many things that could be fall under this. Like I was listening to what's it called? Oh my goodness, Ricky Gervais when he
Mm-hmm.
was on the Oscars, and he just like went to town on everybody in the room. It's one of the best things ever. But when he was at the Oscars and he did ageism, heightism, and he made fun of religions. All
Yeah.
of these things could be perceived by someone as being something worth punching someone in the face for in the
Yeah.
moment. You know what I mean? So to me, it just it reeks of bad morals to me,
Yeah.
to because it's not applicable in all these situations, um with whereas like what my desired reaction to bigotry would be a focused, if the bigotry stems from somewhere systemic, then you focus on deteriorating the things that hold up that system. You focus on taking it down so that it's not something that is as bigoted, right? So like, for example, I use the word queer to describe myself.
Yeah.
And uh, that word was incredibly bigoted. The word has an incredibly bigoted history, and because we've done things to tear down these structures, because what's called queer folks throughout history have taken time to reappropriate that word and to embrace it and take its power away. It is less of a bigoted word now. It's still bigoted depending on usage, but it's less of a bigoted word now. You know what I mean? And I think that kind of just shows how words can still be bigoted but be different. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that there's a different level there. And I think that tearing down the systemic things that make these words dangerous is the part that you should be focusing on, not attacking the individual in that moment, because attacking the individual will always be seen as violence.
Yeah. I mean, I can definitely say, wait, you were done, right? I didn't cut you off, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Just
Yeah, I'm
wanted to
done.
make sure.
Yeah,
Um.
no problem. I'm wordy too sometimes. I'm bad.
Oh yeah. No. 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 Trust me. Trust me. I understand it. Um. One of Trust me. One of my fucking criticisms that I get in English class is that I'm too fucking wordy with my shit, which it's partially just to like up the fucking word count because fuck writing essays. Um. But I will definitely say too this when it does come to the dismantlement of structures, which is also why I do eventually do want to get on to, if you have the time for it, of course,
Mhm.
I do want to get on to the conversation about black women and their hair, because this is definitely a point that I feel like should be focused on significantly from this. I do feel like part of dismantling structures can sometimes be violence. And I will elaborate on that. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, dismantling a structure of oppression, part of that does have to involve displaying the fact that that structure of oppression is not all encompassing, it's not all powerful. That's why which fuck, I'm not trying to Godwin's law this, and I'm not trying to say that you're defending him. Just
Oh
gotta
no.
say this. But I feel like that was part of the reason why Richard Spencer getting the fucking shit sucker punched out of him was, and I'm not comparing him to Chris Rock, like this, but Chris Rock is not a Nazi, but I feel like this is also part of the reason why Richard Spencer getting the shit sucker punched out of him was so effective, because it displayed that he wasn't this all powerful, all knowing, all like strength being that fascists like to rely on. They like to rely on that mythology of strength. It brought him down to a human level, which was he was then able to be attacked from different angles, and then he had that embarrassing ass fucking video released, like that he didn't know was recorded.
Completely mask off. Yeah, completely
Yeah.
mask off video. Yeah, and I agree. Or I'm sorry, you can continue if you're still making a point.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna finish real quick.
Yeah, no problem.
I definitely feel like what Will Smith did in that moment, he probably didn't have the intended effect of doing it, but I do legitimately think that what he did in that moment was part of displaying the fact that no, people are not just gonna take casual like snide remarks about black women and their hair. People aren't gonna take that shit lying down anymore. And that critiques of this are not, they are not they are not weak. They are not unfounded.
Okay.
And even though he definitely did it in a bombastic way, he still displayed that. And I'm done talking. Sorry.
Oh no, it's all good. Okay, so yeah, and I think that there is justifications. I do think that the Richard Spencer situation was a pretty good one because, behind all of his words and behind everything was the threat of use of power, right? And he had quite a structure that he was looking to build, right? And he's riding on structures that already exist, So
Yeah.
I agree. My thing is that it would have been better served if Will Smith, instead of now taking the time to apologize, took the time to inform.
Yeah.
And because I didn't know that there was such a big deal about African American women and their hair, I didn't know that, and that's I'm not in that community. Like it's just something that's that I'm unaware of, and so the only place that I've heard about it is in lefty circles online. And I think that something that could have been brought up if Will, like I said, wasn't now spending his time doing damage control, he could have been speaking out about that, saying that this is, these are the layers that are going through my mind right now. This is why I felt the need to, speak up during my, award ceremony or speak up at the Oscars and like all this stuff. This is why this statement so deeply offended my family. You know what I mean? And I would have appreciated that more so than what he did, which is now resulting in this fallout, right? Where again, nobody's looking at Chris Rock and going, oh wow, Chris Rock said something bad. It's like what, three celebrities, Tiffany Haddish took that statement down about like standing up for black women, took that statement down. Like there's been fallout for this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that it would have been better if he was spending the time now to inform, right? And stuff. But I think that moment is kind of stolen from him because he kind of stole it from himself. You know what I mean? Everybody's focused on the punch.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference, right? Is that what's it called? So because like I would take it down to something like Black Lives Matter, for example, like with the whole political violence that went on with that, right? A lot of what's called, so like the political violence, I would say, with the Black Lives Matter movement was justified because the motives and the target were very clear. They focused on institutions of those in power. They were not justified or optically beneficial when they focused on individuals, because it's easy for someone to rally around a single person, a cop, versus an institution like the police department. When an individual policeman died, of which I remember only one, they became a rallying cry against the movement. When protesters stood against police stations and the police union headquarters, they were inspirational. And I think that that's kind of the difference, is that like that violent moment is what's going to be highlighted and not any of this stuff that you're talking about that's surrounding it. You know what I mean? And I think that that's what violence does. right? That it moves the optics. It focuses on something that at the end of the day is going to paint the rest of his career. You know what I mean? Is
Yeah.
the fact that he did this. This is going to be a meme that's played over and over and over again, you know? And that's it, you know? I mean, I see people now are, you know, swapping the Batman slapping Robin meme with the, you know, Will Smith slapping Chris Rock meme. So,
Yeah.
like, this is just a thing that's going to be now. And that's what people are going to focus on, not, you know, the comments about the hair, not the alopecia, not any of that. And that's what's sad.
Yeah. That's certainly I can definitely understand that. I can definitely understand that. And I think this is where it's more so a difference in like opinion and how it falls out separate from this. In
Mm.
my opinion, when it comes to long lasting long lasting conversations, sometimes I do feel like violence can create that far more than peaceful discussion can, and I will elaborate on that.
Mm-hmm.
To go back to the whole Richard Spencer thing,
Oh yeah.
in the moment when it happened, the conversation wasn't around Richard Spencer being a fucking horrible person. It was, is it ethical or not to, you know, punch Nazis? Like,
Mm-hmm.
is that ethical? And it wasn't around Richard Spencer and his viewpoints and spreading the fact that his viewpoints were horrible and that he isn't someone that should be listened to or taken seriously. But in recent years, since that fallout has spread, Richard Spencer has become, it's the one name that everyone, and yeah, how do I put this? It's the name that everyone involved in online politics knows, but they know him because he got punched, and moreover, they know what the fallout of that punch did to bring him down, because it started a conversation around, of course, whether or not it's ethical to punch Nazis, but what it also did was expose this weird little fucking group of neo-Nazi alt-righters and what the fuck they were doing and what the fuck they believed. When it
Yeah.
comes to violence in order to make that aim to make that go through, while it isn't necessarily the most palatable, sometimes it can lead to longer lasting discussion. If it was, say, um, if it was Richard Spencer like getting debate broed out, yeah, it would have stuck for a bit, and it definitely would have stuck for a lot of people, but it may not have stuck for as long as it did with him getting punched. I can even point to like Destiny versus JonTron. Like a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
know about the Destiny versus JonTron debate, but imagine what would have happened if JonTron said like some weird ass racist shit, and then someone socked him in the face instead of it just being, oh, we're gonna do like a long protracted conversation, and JonTron loses, but not everyone's going to come out of that with the same opinion. It's really what can likely cause the longest lasting effect, and sometimes violence causes that longest lasting effect because it creates more conversation. And even though a lot of that conversation is a lot, and I'm about to finish, sorry for talking
Yeah.
long. Even though
Oh no,
that,
it's fine.
yeah, even though that conversation is like a lot muddled sometimes, and it sometimes gets lost in like vortexes and like little tributaries off the river, at the end of the day that river still ends in the ocean, is the best way to
Mm.
put it. At the end of the day, the main focus of the conversation always comes out on top. It always prevails in a way.
I would argue that the difference is um the explicitness of the bigotry, right? Like so like at that point everybody knew. Like the question wasn't is it okay to punch random dudes on the street, right? The question was is it okay to punch Nazis? Right? So everybody knew that Richard Spencer was a Nazi from his like Heil Trump video and stuff. So that wasn't the question, right? Whereas a lot of people right now a lot of people don't necessarily know the deep roots that that caused the anger, right? With Will Smith. it's not like it was easily like, oh, well, very clearly Chris Rock is the bad guy. You know what I mean? Like, oh, Chris Rock did something that was really bad, and then now, um, he got punched in the face for it. There's a huge conversation happening where they're like, is it okay to punch comedians?
Yeah.
And I think that that's the wrong conversation, right? Because, like I said, right, like that all those things that Ricky Gervais said when he was at the Oscars, like this is are we not allowed to make fun of anyone anymore? Like, can we not make fun of someone's age because it's ageism, height because it's heightism, make fun of religions because it's mocking someone's deeply held beliefs? Like, are those levels of bigotry also something that can be met justifiably with a punch in the face?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think, and again, going back to what I said earlier, I definitely think that comes down to like exactly what the joke is and exactly what it creates in terms of the potential for violence against that group and what it like festers in terms of bigotry against that group.
So do you think that like the people with alopecia are going to be like starting to get like rounded up and put into eugenics camps, or
Well,
like is
no.
that a real concern?
Well, no. Of
Because
course
I would
not.
argue that the reason why that Richard Spencer was such a big deal was because like, and I would argue this is maybe more of a cause for why the alt right kind of fell apart, was the Unite the Right rally was like a few months after the punch, right? So um what's it
Yeah.
called, the Unite the Right rally not only brought these people into stark contrast with the average everyday conservative, because it turns out they didn't really unite the right, but it also put people out there standing out there with like swastikas and Confederate flags and like all these things, right? And so when it comes down to it, it's easy to paint that as being something like, oh yeah, obviously it's easy to look like the good guy when the person you're punching is wearing a swastika. Like when the person you're punching is wearing something that says I'm bad, it's really easy to look like the good guy, you know? Um, but when it comes down to the situation with Chris Rock and everything, I don't think that difference, that bigotry is brought in as stark relief as it was with like Unite the Right and Richard Spencer.
Yeah. Yeah. Just 1 second, real quick. I
Yeah, no problem.
need to review this real quick. Okay, sorry about that. I definitely do not. I had to go back in the VOD real quick to like rehear something because,
Oh, okay.
yeah. I definitely do not think that what Chris Rock said will like result in people with alopecia getting tossed into like alopecia camps, but I do legitimately think that it is part of a broader systemic pressure against people with medical conditions and against, in particular, since Chris Rock didn't know that she had a medical condition, it also feeds into a consistent oppression that has been going on against black women, especially in relation to their hair. So while neither of those groups are going to get rounded up and thrown into camps anytime soon, it's still it's still a facet of that oppression. It's still going along with that, and it's still helping harbor that and foment that. And that's the thing that I believe was particularly violent about his statement. It wasn't that he was necessarily attacking Jada directly. It was more so that what he was doing was allowing further conversation to be directed towards insulting people of these groups for no reason and for shit that they really can't control. And to go back to the Ricky Gervais thing, what you said earlier,
Hmm.
I'm gonna like particularly focus around like say jokes about like age or religion or like
Hmm.
height. Like personally, I joke on my short friends all the time. I call them like fucking microscopic.
Wow, wow.
But
Short King is on the call right now, and I'm very upset about it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Listen, there's a difference between a short king and I believe that height is held in spirit. It is held in spirit. Um,
Yeah, short kings rise up on a step stool.
yeah. So I definitely what I would say to that is like, what does the joke say? So if it was, say, like Chris Rock joking about Jada Smith and like the whole entanglement shit, I would
Mhm.
get why Will Smith would walk up and smack the shit out of him in that situation. But in that case, I would say that that joke is. I say all jokes are on the table, but I feel like that joke would be far more defensible because that is something that Jada can control. She can control, not cheating on the person that she's with. Whereas
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
when it's like her being a black woman or her having a hair condition, that's something that she can't control. And I feel like jokes on things that you can't control are far more indefensible and far more of an invitation to getting the shit smacked out of you than jokes about shit that you can control. And
Okay.
that's that.
Yeah. So I think that when it comes down to it, in order to fight against bigotry, I think that it's more fruitful to fight against the institutions that support the bigotry. Then in this case, it would be the lack of awareness, right? Because obviously, I didn't really know that like I didn't really think about the alopecia thing until I had to like literally Google it to figure out that that was a real thing or that she had. Because I don't really pay attention to celebrities like this. I didn't even know the Oscars were happening, and then somebody said Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, and I was like, was this at a club? And they're like, this was at the Oscars, and I was like, oh shit. Um, so, but like, I think that there's a lot of discussion that could be had that is not being had because of the violence, and I think that that's the problem. Is that the reason why? I think that the reason why this could have been a more fruitful discussion in the broader context had the violence not occurred. But now it's just a fruitful discussion between me and you. Um, and I think ultimately at the end of the day, what kind of bothers me about like the because I think that we both agree like we need to fight bigotry and like all these things
Yeah.
and everything. I think that you kind of understand where I'm coming from when it comes to like focusing on institutions and stuff along those lines. I think that we do disagree heavily on the the bar of where violence is something that is acceptable, right? I think that that is something that like I don't know. I don't know why that's something that you're okay with, with it being so low. I think that violence and a force of any kind is something that's pretty abhorrent.
Yeah.
I would expect somebody who is on the left to feel the same way, but that's not what I got from your Twitter exchange here.
Yeah.
Um,
Um.
and stuff because even you said violence begets violence, and I think that that's something to think about is like, well, if you like I said in that situation where I was like, okay, well, what if Chris Rock swung back, would that have also been justified, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you had a clear answer to that.
It would have been.
It would have
Yeah.
been justified,
Yeah.
so it would
Yeah.
have been perfectly fine to have these two men who again, I mean, this is I know it's kind of id-poly or whatever, two black men attacking each other at the Oscars. And let me finish this. I
Mm-hmm.
don't personally hold this belief, but I know there's a lot of people on the right that do, that say that black people are prone to violence. I don't think that that is something that would be good to have on the Oscars as fodder for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the same could be said about Hispanics, right? So like if there was, I'm Hispanic, and like if if you had two Hispanic men fighting on the stage too, I would be like, oh my god, the right's gonna have a fucking field day with this. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? As if they're not gonna be already. And it's one of those things where it's like I don't think that a situation that would result in two people hitting each other without any clear indication of who's in the right and who's in the wrong is ever a good idea. You know what I mean? That's never a good reaction, I feel like. Um, and I don't think that I could stand by or justify a moral system that allows for that.
Yeah. Um. So, I'm gonna paraphrase. Please interrupt me if I got this wrong.
Okay.
Because I hit like a fucking brain fart like halfway through that, and then I regained myself. So I'm gonna paraphrase what I believe you said, and then if I'm wrong, please like correct me and clarify because I don't want to get you wrong.
Yeah, no problem.
But basically, a it's not good optically to have like two black men fight on stage because the right would have a field day with that. Is that was one of your points, I believe?
I said something along those lines. It's just optically, it's not a good move. That's just one part of why I would be against that result. But that is a big part for me. Just because I listen to right wingers from time to time as a form of self assault. But
Oh God, fuck! I understand that. um, and and B, did you have like 2 or 3 points?
Oh, I have a few specifically about that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Um,
like basically a world that results in people endlessly escalating violence because of perceived slights is not a good idea to me. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean that's definitely understandable. I would say like the best solution to that is to have people stop starting slights in the first place. And I think that violence can be a bit of a discouragement. I feel like a lot of people would be a lot more careful about needlessly starting shit with people against oppressed groups in particular if they knew that they were liable to get, the taste smacked out of their fucking mouth. And is on the topic
Mm.
of like this looking bad optically to the right, my argument to that would just genuinely be that the right is going to find any way to demonize people. They're going to
I
find any way to make people look bad, even if it was like a situation where Will Smith, during his acceptance speech, said, "You see, what Chris Rock did was pretty fucked up." I'm mimicking him holding the trophy. I actually have a
Oh Jesus.
yeah. What Chris Rock did? I actually have a trophy. What Chris Rock did was pretty fucked up. I don't quite like him insulting my wife like that. She has a hair condition, etc. I feel like what the right would have done in that situation is that they would have either completely ignored that and then the conversation wouldn't have been started because at the end of the day, when it comes to political discussion, if both sides aren't participating, it just falls flat. 9 times out of 10, the fuel for a political discussion is the political argument. Um, so it either would have never gotten started, or the right would have went. I'm gonna do like my best Bench of Hero impression. I
Oh no.
apologize.
Oh no.
Okay. You see, the issue here is it's particularly that Will Smith is starting issues where there are not issues. Okay, there is no oppression going on. Okay, I can't breathe. There is no oppression going on against black women in any workplace. Anyone who says that is absolutely idiotic. I have to say that absolutely idiotic. Okay, personally, I have a black woman who works in my studio. She edits videos for me. Okay, and honestly, I don't care how she wears her hair. She can wear it however she wants. And due to me, personally not being prejudiced about that, at least openly, due to that, um, uh, the prejudice just doesn't exist. I feel like it would have gone down that way, even if Will
Okay.
Smith kept it peaceful. They would have still found a way to either ignore it or turn it. I don't think that making optical concessions to the right is necessarily the best way to go about it.
Okay. All right. So I wrote down some of your points while you were talking. Okay. So hold on. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So I'm very happy that you also believe a violent society, or sorry, an armed society is a kind society. Minorities do need to have their Second Amendment rights. They do need to arm themselves just in case. But I think that personally, attacking someone for a perceived slight is quite different than attacking someone who is blatantly using bigotry. And when it comes down to it, perceived slights could be, like I said, somebody cutting you off on the road. It could be somebody accidentally stepping on your shoe. It could be, any number of things that happen throughout the day, right? That could be like a perceived slight, right? My coworker, left for break without me, even though I was like just stepped away from my desk for a moment. She didn't wait. What a bitch. Like there's so many things that could happen where it's a perceived slight. And then I'm like, oh, well, it's justified to punch her in the face. Like, I think that that's just that bar is just so low. I think that you need to look at like what is the substance of the thing, right? Like
Yeah.
if it does what the person's saying, like for example, the only time that I would justify violence against somebody who's using words would be if those words are directly putting me in danger, right? So if I'm at a club or something and I look around, I'm like, wow, there's an awful lot of white people over here, and then all of a sudden somebody goes, get that Mexican slur, I don't know what you're allowed to say on YouTube, get that Mexican slur and beat him up or whatever, take his money, whatever, then I'm like, oh shoot, and I believe me, I'm gonna start swinging. Like it doesn't like I'm gonna start swinging and running, like that's what I'm gonna do. But if somebody goes like, get out of here, you short piece of shit, I'm not gonna like start swinging, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm not fucking with that guy, and then I move away because I'm like, I'm not gonna let him ruin my night, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna end up in jail because this guy said a stupid fucking thing while he's drunk. That's just not the way I'm going to live my life. And I think that somebody who is like has the moral justification in their head that that's okay, that punching someone who makes fun of this short king um is something that's acceptable. I think that that speaks to some deeper issues. I think that that speaks to um like I said on Twitter, and I'll stand by it, it's kind of a self-report. Like I think that like there is a little bit of like of necessary introspection that comes from a statement like that, because maybe I can't like speak for you, but maybe you haven't experienced a lot of violence in your life. It is very, very dangerous. Like I've been in fights in school. My dad, like I said, I've had history with my dad with domestic violence. It is incredibly dangerous to get into a fight. There have been people who get punched in the face and they hit the back of their head on the concrete and they're dead. Like it's not just, oh yeah, well he took his licks and he's gonna go home and wipe it off, no big deal. There are people who lay on the ground for hours after they get knocked out. Like that's just a thing. Like, and so I think that the willy-nilliness to like just like go and commit violence is something that's like, it speaks to like an inexperience with personal violence. And I would say that like there's a reason this is one of the few times I'm going to cite Joe Rogan in a positive way. But like Joe Rogan, he constantly says like people who do like MMA, people who do like combat sports in general are much less likely to just fly off the handle one night while at a bar and just start beating somebody up. Like they're like the least violent people because they know how dangerous it can be.
Yeah.
And I think that that's true. And so I don't know. I think that that just it speaks to a level of and this is gonna is a loaded word, but like ignorance towards what violence can cause. Like, and I think that that's kind of where I have the major issue here, and everything. And when it comes down to the right will meme anyway kind of idea, I would say that there's a difference between, saying like, oh well, Will Smith is weak, right? And then there's also the difference between, well, this backs up all the things we've been telling you about how violent Black people are. You know what I mean? Like, here's more evidence for the arguments that we've been making for centuries, right? Like, and I think that those are two completely different things, right? And like Will Smith as a cuck or whatever is one level, and then there's another level of speaking to prejudices that they've held on to for centuries. And I think that that's the difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's certainly understandable. Which I guess which you're definitely pulling me over to your side. Definitely, you've done fucking great this entire discussion.
I try to make points on Twitter that I can back up.
Yeah, that's fair. And I went into this and I was like, okay, yeah, I can back this up. And then it's like, okay, hearing this, yeah, I definitely get that. I guess my question to you is like, where does your standard for what welcomes violence, where does that start?
When it comes to words, that starts at when somebody is putting me in a situation where violence is going to be committed upon me, or I have a reasonable, like physical violence, or I have a reasonable expectation that they are going to initiate violence with me. And like it has to be like direct violence, right? Because anything else can be handled afterwards when I have a clear head. That's kind of how I kind of deal with things.
Yeah.
And so like for example, I'm gonna give you an example, and this might make me sound like a bitch, but I call this, a good, a positive use of masculinity and a positive use, like this is positive partnership. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a car with my wife. My wife drives like a freaking mad woman, and she has an incredible case of road rage. And I always talk to her about it because it's insane to have road rage, I feel like. And so she drove out of a parking lot into the street, and there was a guy who was like flying down the street, like going way faster than the speed limit. It was like 35. He was probably going 50. And so they almost hit because he was driving like a wild person. And he's yelling at her from her car into my car and is like calling her like all kinds of fucking names, like, yo, you fucking bitch, and blah, blah. And I kept my window rolled up. Like, I'm not even going to fucking, and whatever, because he's on my right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm in the passenger seat. And so then she rolls down my window and starts cussing him out. And I just sat there in the middle. I'm like, I'm not getting fucking involved. I'm like, if he pulls out a gun or something, or like starts coming up to the car and starts like doing shit, then I'll get involved. Right now, the best thing I could do is shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
No, and so I just shut the fuck up. And then he was like saying all kinds of horrific shit to her. He was like saying like, you stupid fucking bitch, and like all these things. And I was like, whatever. And then we drove away. The guy got back in his car, drove away as well. And the altercation was over. And I then told my wife, I'm like, I'm incredibly disappointed in you, because I would not have engaged with that person at all. Like, you don't know if he has a gun. You don't, like, I live in an incredibly dangerous town, like regularly top 10 most dangerous cities. And I was like, you don't know if that person has a gun. You don't know anything about that person. You don't know if he just got out of prison. Like, I don't know why you would engage. And I'm really disappointed. And that's been something that's kind of stuck with her for a long time. And so, like, whereas if I just engaged with that person, then it would have justified her engaging with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like, that's kind of where I'm at. But when it comes to like physical violence, of course, when I believe somebody's about to attack me, I will attack. But because of what I've been through in my life, my bar for like initiating violence is incredibly high, because in most times it's not necessary. And I haven't been sucker punched. It's like, since, I've changed my life and been doing better things with it, I haven't been sucker punched. I haven't had these situations where, oh man, I wish I initiated violence first. Like, that's never happened. You know what I mean? Where there's many situations I got in where if I did initiate violence, it would have made my life significantly worse.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I guess my question to you is, what if that language initiated stochastic violence, potentially?
Okay, and so I'm trying to remember. Stochastic violence is indirect, correct?
Yeah.
Or like it compelled others to violence.
Yeah, or like it builds up like enough to where like someone can take that and go, okay, I'm gonna go do this, and then you can say, oh well, I didn't want them to do that. I never said to do that. And you might not have, but like rhetoric like built up to that, which I don't think like Chris Rock was trying to build up like intentionally to
but like
that.
Richard Spencer, for example, was.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I agree and I understand, and I think that that's the difference, right? I think that you kind of answered your own question with regards to this specific situation, is that in a specific situation, Chris Rock wasn't.
Yeah.
Whereas in the situation with Richard Spencer, he definitely was, and he was telling everybody as much. And he also, as demonstrated by the United Right rally, he also had a movement behind him, right? There was a movement to do that. As far as I'm aware, there's no movement that is vocally active, that is building up support, that is, actively saying that we need to make legislation or, actively attack, black women with bad hair or whatever in the streets. Like, that's, or women with alopecia or whatever. Like, that's the difference. There's a difference between just like passing violence or passing, bigotry or whatever, and building up stochastic violence. And I think that the line there is there a movement? Is there anything to this? Right. Like I said, if I was in a room and somebody was saying, we need to get that fucker, you know what I mean? Then I'd be like, oh shit. Okay. Well, I better start swinging. Right. Because obviously he's got people behind him. Right. Or he at least believes he does. um and stuff. And so like that's kind of that would be my bar essentially.
Hmm. That's fair. That's fair. So basically, like if it's stochastic violence, there's like a higher level
Hmm.
of like there's a higher bar to clear. Basically, is that what you're saying?
Essentially, yeah, that you would have to prove, like it would have to be proven and be like known that there is more possibility. It's like when somebody receives a threat, right? Like a death threat or something, right? Like if somebody just says like, "Oh, I hate you," and it's just some dude who's like drunk or something, then it's like, and he doesn't know where you live, he doesn't know anything, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill you," and he doesn't know where you live, he doesn't know anything, then that's different than if the person actually knows where you live, right?
Yeah.
And I think like there's laws that are exist that define that, and I think that that's kind of the same situation there, right? It's the reason why we have like RICO cases and stuff where like the head of the mafia, if he says he's going to kill you, probably has a decent method to do so.
Yeah.
um so that would be it, would be the ease of the mode of action, I guess, would be the main issue there.
That's fair. That's fair. Ease mode of action. That's fair. It's definitely
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
Hmm. What do I say to that? Well, definitely your bar for clearing what is warranted, like what
Mhm.
warrants violence, is certainly a lot higher than mine.
Mhm.
Um, I guess the issue in that case really comes down to like where is that arbitrary line drawn in different like situations, because it is like a line that everyone holds differently, because there really isn't any major writing on like, okay, this is where you hit someone and this is where you don't hit someone. It's very much so a it's open season, you draw the line where you draw the line. But I definitely get why you place your line where you place your line.
Yeah,
And
because I feel like I've illustrated mine pretty well. Like
yeah,
I've yeah, I have several different ways, and like whereas with you, I'm like anybody could fly off the handle at any moment if I say something, right? Like I don't, you know what I mean? Like I worry for every comedian based off of your standard of violence.
yeah. I mean, and I guess it does legitimately like, and I think that's also something that is sort of like a burden placed on comedians, because like there's always going to be someone that you piss off. I feel like what comedians and anyone in general telling jokes, but I definitely feel like what comedians may have to start to contest with and may have to start contending with is the fact, and this is something that they've been doing for a long time now with the whole like cancel culture shit and like
Hmm.
getting angry whenever people like criticize them for jokes. I think
Hmm.
comedians are now in an era where they have to start contending with the fact that their jokes do carry meaning and that they are going to get pushback to their jokes. And while not all jokes are going to result in someone running up on stage and fucking like reddening your fucking cheek, um, while it may not always result in that, that is a possibility.
But I don't think that that's a world I want to live in.
I mean, and that's definitely understandable. Um,
Like
that's definitely understandable.
like yeah, no, that's definitely not a world I want to live in. Like I tend to like comedians who say like pretty offensive jokes. Like, I mean, not like, incredibly racist jokes, but like, just jokes people in general find offensive. And I don't know. I think that there's just a history, a long history that goes back to like the medieval ages of like a protected, I guess you could call it a protected class of individuals who are known as being the people who are able to like tell jokes and not receive repercussions. There was like a lot of like court jesters and stuff back in ye old times, were telling jokes to kings about how fat they are, and they were like not getting beheaded. And like
Yeah,
part of it was because we understand that like, hey, everyone needs a good ribbing now and then, everybody needs to be brought down a peg now and then, and sometimes it feels cathartic, you know what I mean? It feels nice, you know what I mean, to like be like, oh yeah, let me get off my high horse, you know what I mean? And um and I just, I would hate to see it like there's a group of people in the back of every comedy club that are just waiting to punch someone, and when they hear something that is a perceived slight, they'll just do it. You know what I mean? Like that's like that's
Yeah.
that's where I'm like, what there's going to be no more crowd work anymore, which is some of the best like improv comedy, like because Lord forbid you make fun of someone, you know what I mean? Like if you say like, oh well, oh you're a carpenter, I mean, or whatever, oh you sell paper, oh that's like the most useless profession in the world, and then the guy gets up and punches him in the face, says, my dad was a paper seller and my grandpa was a paper seller, you're insulting my ancestry. Like you know what I mean? Like I don't want to live in a world where like the person who decides when violence is okay is the person sitting in the chair getting
Yeah.
laughed at. Like I don't think that that's like, I think as a society we've kind of made clear that that's not the kind of world we want to live in, and thank goodness that we have laws in place to fight that kind of thing. um but yeah, I definitely I got to get going pretty soon, and I think
Uh-huh.
that we kind of but I do want to talk to you about the wildest thing that I saw out of the tweets that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is going to be long. You said, bro, I've seen one Will Smith movie and it was Shark Tales.
Yes.
And I think that that is a crime. I think there's many Will Smith movies that are actually very good. And I'm actually trying to contain the anger at hearing that. So Men in Black was a good movie. It's a good one to do. Only the first one though. Like if you really like the first one, then go on to the sequels. I Am Legend is a very good movie. Bad Boys 1 and Bad Boys 2 is good. I haven't seen the latest one, so who knows. And Wild Wild West is also very fun.
Yeah. And wasn't there like that movie with like Jaden Smith and like they go to like the planet? I vaguely remember like
Oh
hearing about
Jesus.
that
Yeah,
one.
no. I don't like Jaden Smith. The apple fell very far from the tree and
Oh
hit
God. Yeah.
its head. It seems like. So yeah, maybe don't.
Yeah.
but but I think there's a lot out there to go into, and stuff. And I think yeah, maybe you need to do a little bit more introspection about standards of violence, things along those lines, and stuff. But I think you have a pretty good head on your shoulders, and you can kind of figure this out.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I would like to continue this later because I there were like other aspects of conversation that I wanted to move on to, but
Oh,
I get
okay.
that you
Sorry.
have to like log out. No, you're
Yeah.
fine. You're fine. I get time constraints and stuff. But
Yeah.
um, I'm more than willing to schedule something. And
Okay, for sure.
yeah. But before you leave, feel free to like shout yourself out, and then we'll say
Okay.
our closing stuff.
For sure, for sure. So, yeah, my name is Golden Goat Online in most places. I have a website where I write. It's joeisaac.com. I'll go ahead and link it in I'll put it in the chat and stuff. And I do like writing about culture. I've done writing about, my dysphoria and my stuff along those lines. So, um, yeah. So yeah, no, it's been great talking to you, and it seems like the chat enjoyed the conversation.
Yep.
Um, I saw a few things there saying this is a very fruitful discussion, and so I'm very happy to provide.
Yeah. That was pretty good. Well, I do
Okay.
hope that you have a lovely, lovely time in the city of
Sin,
um
yes,
yes, in the city of Sin. What was it called in GTA San Andreas? Like Las Venturas?
yes, Las Venturas.
Have fun in Las Venturas. And you stay safe. You stay safe. Thank you for the good
Will
convo.
do. All right, all right. You try not to get into any fights. All right,
I'll try not to.
all right. Bye.
I'll talk to you. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I did go into that feeling like I had definitely the least defensible position, and I will say I hiccuped in the beginning. I wasn't as clear with my definition of like what I believe constitutes violence. So I'll clear that up now because, good God, that fucked me. I believe what constitutes violence is both when someone is in a situation where they feel assailed upon, and then also looking at it like a lot more objectively, were they actually assailed upon, and then we can determine whether or not a physical violent response was warranted or not. I fucked up in my definition in the beginning. That's not my fault. Well, no, that is my fault. That's not their fault. And from what information I was giving them on my belief that I said bad, that I expressed horribly, they did very good at fucking me over and, you know, displaying that I was definitely wrong on the topic. So I look forward to speaking with them in the future, and for the love of God, do not fucking harass this person. Legitimately, if I see anyone harassing this person, and I will glasses off to express how serious I am. This is really the first debate I've had, and hopefully it will spark many more. If I see anyone harassing this person, I will actively ban you from all of my fucking social media platforms. Do not do that. This was a nice person. We had a nice debate. Do not harass this person. Even if I have a nasty debate in the future, do not harass them. Making that clear now. Look forward to it too. Same here. Yeah, but go follow Golden Goat on their socials. I'll make sure to post them after I get done with this little outro. And it should be in the description if I upload this as like a separate little video. But with that being said, I've been a Pillow. Thank you for watching. I love you all, and I'll see you next time. Video outros are always weird to record, but yeah, that was a good fucking convo. But I believe one of my kind friends, I believe Xander Hall, Xander Hall is live. Okay, and H Bobber Guy celebrated 1 million subscribers. Okay, well, I have nothing else that I wanted to cover today. And I kind of have some stuff that I want to do, and some stuff that I need to do. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to end stream. That was a fun ass discussion. I'm going to end stream, and I'm going to be hanging out in Xander Hall's website chat. Join his website, xanderhall.com. It is literally just like VGG, like Vosh's website, since most people should know that. And the most important aspect of this, it's completely free. You can join for completely free, and I'll be there, and I will talk to you actively. And thank you everyone in chat. I got 26 likes on this. That's insane. Thank you everyone in chat. That was a good debate. I lost, and I'll take that graciously. It's the first of many debates, and thankfully it was fun, but I will win some in the future. But fucking hats off to Golden Goat. You did great if you're still wheeling. Hello, Steely McWheelie. You're doing great if you're still watching Golden Goat. Everyone enjoy your night. Good night, everyone. I lost, which is fine. It happens. Go follow Golden Goat. They're cool. This is like the 3rd time I've said this. Good night, indeed. I was trying to think of a quip to say before I exit, but I cannot think of one, so I'm just going to, yeah. I was drinking out of a Lego Movie cup the entire time. There you go, if that's a joke. Good night, everyone. Bye.